Welcome to, we're on the air right now, so we're doing Understanding Movies. And what I'll do is we'll run through what this course is all about, and then at the end of the time, I'll ask for questions at that point, and then we can do it that way. But because we are limited to time, by time, we must get going. So let's just jump right in and find out what this course is all about. So this course is, as I just mentioned, Understanding Movies, the American Cinema, and that's me. My name is Lucanio. You can find me in the Forum building over there. My office hours are 9:30 to 10:30 on Tuesdays, and if you can't make that, let me know, and we can probably find a time. And something about me so you have an idea of why I'm talking to you. I've spent most of my professional career in film, and I have written several books about film and television. Of recent times, I've worked with television, filmed television. I was specialized in a lot of 1950s Hollywood film history that occurred in the 50s, and spent a lot of time studying those crazy, wonderful, delightful monster movies of that era, and wrote a book about them. And then I was in a film called Monsters from the Id. I was a talking head in that film. I think that's still up and running. I have no idea whatever happened to it. It's probably lost somewhere. It was a great success, believe me. My latest work is that 1950s Rocket Man. I have an essay in there about the clubs that the heroes of the 1950s had children join, like be a member of the secret squadron, be a space cadet, that sort of thing. And I also edit a magazine called Radiogram, which is all about radio, old-time radio, that is radio drama. And with that, I also give a plug for who I work with. I work with Radio Redux, if you know anything about that in Eugene. I work with them. We're doing Arsenic and Old Lace at the end of October on Halloween night, and I will be lecturing that night as well as Sunday on my friend Boris Karloff, the life and times of that great actor who was anything but what he's like a monster. He was in real life was a very gentle man, and in his professional career scared people to death. So anyway, that's who I am. So what's this course about? Well, first, before that, I'm only on campus once a week, and it's always a better idea to email me as opposed to call me, because if you call me, I probably won't answer the phone. But if you leave a message, I won't get it for a week later. So the best idea is to email me, and as I showed earlier, and it's on the syllabus as well, I have 2 email addresses for you. I check the email throughout the day. So that's the best way if you have to get in touch with me, is to send an email. And if you're really desperate, you can always send them to both email addresses. So I'll make sure and read one or the other. Yes, you will use email, you will use email, you will use email. Thank you. The book. I don't care which edition of the book you get. If you can get the first edition for 50 cents someplace, do it, because it's still going to work. The book by Belton, who is an excellent writer, and Belton is a film scholar, the book was written to go with the films. So if you had the first edition, you're actually having the book that goes with the original films, because they're about, like I was telling you earlier, they're about 20 years old. But as I also mentioned, nothing much changes with regard to film language. The book, later editions, what you find in later editions is commentary about newer films. That's all there is really in the difference. So any edition of the book works. As you will see in the syllabus, that certain chapters correspond to certain weeks in which we are watching the video presentations. So that's how the book is available to you. It's by chapter, because I do skip around in a few places there. All right, so what is this all about? This course is an introductory course that brings Hollywood filmmaking into clear focus as an art form. Okay, as an art form, everybody knows that. If you're going to college, if you're in this room, which is a college classroom, right away by default, you will say, yes, movies, Hollywood films, and so forth, it is an art form. But it's also an economic force. It is an economic force that makes tons of money. Lots and lots and lots and lots of filthy lucre. And it is a system of representation and communication. Now, let me emphasize one thing, the way I approach Hollywood film. And I say this to every one of my film classes I've ever had, that first and foremost, a Hollywood film is an economic issue. They make the film to make money. They don't care about art. They'll tell you that they do. But the only reason a film gets made is because in this day and age, at this time, presently, it is market research says, yeah, people are going to pay big money to see this kind of movie. Lots of times films are made according to that. So when they say what draws people, several years ago it was car chases. So you had lots of films that included long car chases. And that way you can put the car chase in the trailer, bring people in to see the car chase, and then we'll figure out some story to go with it. Okay, now that I said that, now that I sounded very cynical, and now that I betrayed my professorial persona by saying it's an economic force when I should be saying that film is an art form, let me say this. By default, it becomes an art form. Because even though they might make a movie in order to make money, there are lots of creative people there that do things that we look at and we go, now that is something to talk about. Okay, it's not just a chase scene. It's not just this, but it says something. And you can always tell when something has that kind of aesthetic value is when you can say, you know, I can talk about this movie. And that's what aesthetic value is all about anyway. It says, you know, a movie has something to say, and it says it this way. Okay, now I could go on forever on that, but that's essentially what we're talking about. Yeah, it may start with money. It may start with the idea that, boy, we're going to make bazillions off of this movie. But if you give it to the right people, the right creative people, what you get is, wow, it was worth it. This is good. This is really something. And there used to be an inverse ratio. The more money you spent, the less value it had. The cheaper the movie, the more value it had. But that might not be the same today. I happen to think that it's the same, that idea, because the more money, I mean, look how much money was spent, I don't know. They always lie. You never know for sure what it is. But let us just say $200 million was spent on that fantastic film. What was it, last summer or 2 summers ago? The Lone Ranger. And we know what happened to it. All right, okay, now that I've editorialized on that, we move on. The American cinema probes the deeper meanings of American movies. I hate that term, hidden message of genres. They use that. That always sounds false, and it sounds just crazy to say there's a hidden message in it, but that's the way they look at it. But what does genre mean? We look at that. The social and psychological effects of style. That's a very important question to deal with. The style of a movie. How does it really affect us? What is the difference? For example, I attended a conference once, and this woman gave an absolutely fantastic paper about a point of view in a film. And she talked about various kinds of films in which rape was depicted. And in those films, she talked about, what makes this work, this one doesn't, if you talk about it. But she talked about point of view. The point of view. And she said, as she measured these, this was about 10 years ago when this conference occurred, that she measured these films in which there is rape that occurs, and in 90% of those films that she observed, the point of view is from the male. The violence that was depicted, there was very little sympathy that came out of that. It was very, very disturbing. I mean, I was taken aback by it. And it was one of those things, again, where I had to slap myself, because after she talked about that, I kept saying, you know, she's absolutely right. I kept thinking, yeah, this film, this film, this film, this film. Yeah, she's absolutely right. The point of view is always from the attacker. And the point of view does not come from the victim. And it would alter it completely of how we looked at the film if that was reversed. But anyway, that style, the style is what a director chooses, the way that we're going to see this image. Whether we're going to see it even from a long shot, what a long shot does, or a close-up or whatever. And then we go back to the very basic, what Charlie Chaplin once said, and that is, long shot is comedy, close shot is tragedy. You can take it from there. And mutual influence of society and popular culture. That's the idea. Okay, what do we make? Do these people that make films, do they make them because of what they want to do, or do they make them for our culture? Or does the culture dictate the back and forth, these things? They'll answer that for you. Moving on. The way it works, the schedule works this way. Each week is a 60-minute lesson, and you can get them on the cable channels. It is cablecast 5 times throughout the week, so you can find it sooner or later. But also, the nice thing about this particular course is that all of the video presentations are online at the Annenberg site. There, that is the web address there. It is in your syllabus. And so you don't have to worry about writing that long thing down. But you can go there on the Annenberg site and you can watch any of our videos at any time you want to. They are simply there for your viewing. So that's one of the nice things there. Okay, moving on. The next time I talk to you, I will be in this room. You don't have to show up because you can watch it online. You can watch it on TV. But I will give you a midterm review. I will tell you what will be on the exam, more or less, and I will answer any questions that you have, that sort of thing, and then that's followed by the midterm. The midterm runs at the end of this month, October 30th through November 6th, and you have to take it in the testing lab. It will be available to you for 1 week. As they used to say in the movies, 1 week only. So it will be available, so you can check the hours, as it says there, check availability of hours. Check the hours of the testing lab, and then you can take the exam over there. And I'll talk more about the exams in a little bit. After that, I'd come back for a final review, which will be held December 1st in this room. Again, it'll be broadcast live, and you don't have to be here, but you can watch it at home or wherever you watch these things. And the same thing, I'll just tell you what's going to be on the final. Then you will take the final exam during finals week, but it actually starts the Thursday before because it will run 1 week only as well. So you would have December 4 through December 11 in the testing lab again to take the final exam. So what do? Well, first, I have to give you the LCC warning. Just like those warnings you get on all your DVDs from the Bureau of Enrollment Enforcement. I have to have you check in this class. So you go to my old buddy Moodle, which Moodle and I aren't buddies, but it is set up in Moodle thanks to the geniuses and the technology people that set it up. And all you got to do is check in this week, and that way you will not be dropped. You've probably already heard that about the no-show drop. Okay, so check in. Go to Moodle, check in, and then you're safe. You're secure. If you're not on my list, if you're not there during this week, so when it shuts down at the end of the week and your name isn't there, it's can't do anything about it. You're out of here. You're gone. And I can't do anything about it. If you come to me pleading and begging, I just turn away and I just go. So check in. All right. That's, excuse me, that's number one requirement. Now, secondly, of course, obviously, you watch the video programs. Again, the video programs are available. What did I do? There it is. The video programs, they are available online. So again, I can emphasize that you can watch them anytime you wish. But you do have to have the high speed stuff. Okay. And then, of course, read the appropriate sections of the text. I already mentioned that. Take notes if you have to. If you're just a genius and you don't have to, don't worry about it. And then you follow into these requirements, which 2 exams. That's it, folks. 2 exams. A midterm and a final. That's all it is. That's all that's required of you. The exams are 50 questions each. They'll all be multiple choice. Some of them, the questions will be kind of theoretical. It's not a factual thing as such. It's not just, in 1888 this happened. No, don't worry. A lot of them are some conceptual questions. So, but then I will talk about those as we get closer to the exams. Again, they're in the Social Science Testing Lab. That's the center building, 456. You need photo ID and your L number. And always check to verify their business hours, because you got to get in there to take the test when they're open. They're not gonna answer you. They're not gonna open up just for you. And you can use a 3x5 card for reference. Now, that's their rule over there. You're only allowed 1. So what I always tell students is, okay, I know all this stuff, but I can't keep some things straight. Like they'll ask you the aspect ratio. This is for the final, obviously, as we get closer to today. And that is, okay, I don't know what was CinemaScope. It's wide, but I don't know blah, blah, blah. I can't keep that straight. So just in case he asks that on the exam, which he probably will, I will write it down on my note card. The stuff I already know, I don't need to write down. But the stuff that I don't, I'll put it on the note card, take it with me, and then I'll be able to breeze through the exam without any problems. I just want to emphasize that you are responsible for the exam. It is your responsibility to make the exam date and time. So, I don't want to hear you call up and say, hey, I went to the testing lab and it was closed. No, that's the wrong thing to say. You say, it was, they're always going to be open if you check to see what their hours are and you conform to their hours. And on the day, usually it's a little more, it's sooner than that. But about the time of the midterm, when I do the midterm review, I will have on Moodle a review sheet for you, a study guide and review sheet. So you can download that and you'll have a good idea. When you look at that review sheet, you'll go, wow, is this all? Is this what he's going to ask? Oh, this is a breeze. No problem at all. I don't even need a note card. I'm going to just ace this thing. Or it could be like, oh my gosh, where have I been? Help. So anyway, that should help you. as well as my commentary during the review night. Okay, now, I do allow extra credit. I do allow that because I like, a lot of students would say, can I do something other than that? Like I've had students, believe it or not, I have had students that are say, I really love this particular movie. Would it be all right if I talk about it? Could I write a paper about it just so you can give me some feedback? And I say, sure. So extra credit works fine. So your extra credit is one of two options. You write a paper on the production elements of a single sequence of any film produced before 1970. And what I do with that is I force you to watch something you otherwise wouldn't be watching. I could really be fiendish, and I could require you to watch a black and white movie. But no, just anything before 1970. And it's a production element. It's explained in the syllabus. And it's a single sequence in a film. The example I give in the syllabus is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you've ever seen that movie, there is some of the finest piece of film editing ever done. Towards the end of that film, when Tuco runs through the graveyard looking for one grave out of a bazillion crosses out there. And Leone sets that up and does a fantastic job of film editing. Not only, it's visually it is attractive, but also orally it's attractive with that unbelievable soundtrack by Ennio Morricone that goes with it. And Leone builds the scene according to music. So if you ever wanted to see how music and film work together flawlessly and perfectly and beautifully, that is a sequence that you have to see. Because as I understand it, Morricone had already written that piece of music, and Leone played the music while they were shooting this thing, and he had it in his head how he was going to cut that, and he's going to cut according to the tempo of that music, and it's beautiful. Well, you see, I'm already talking about it, but that's what you would talk about, see, if you wanted to do extra credit. Or, as one guy told me, he came up after class and he said, can I do that with a film? He wanted to make a video of it like that. And I said, do it. I was hoping to see it. He never did it. He just dropped out. But unfortunately, I said, I'd love to see somebody do that kind of film. Anyway, the details, as I just got through saying, are in that deluxe syllabus available on Moodle for download. Okay, if you're confused, bewildered, rattled, depressed, desperate, so am I. And so we'll stop by during office hours and we'll try to set each other straight. And okay, so what are we going to look at? The first week is the classic Hollywood style. They're going to talk about classic Hollywood, and you're going to find out that classic doesn't mean just old. Classic is a way of doing things. Classic is really one of the isms out there, like classicism. That's where that comes from with the classic Hollywood style. Then they're going to talk about the crazy thing, the studio system, which is what they used to call the film factory. These were factories. These were companies who were set up to produce films, and they made like assembly line. Often they were just producing one film after another. You'll see that. Then you'll see that phenomenal thing called the star. When films were first made, there were no credits other than a title. That was about it. And then what happened was people were saying, I'd like to see another movie with that one person. That person does some interesting things. And they said, okay, they start making films with the same person, and that person gets a name. And then people were saying, please, please, I want more films with Mary Pickford. I want America's Sweetheart, the types of roles that she played. And or you say, I want that one guy that you never know what he looks like. He always changes his face. Why, he's a man of 1,000 faces, Lon Chaney. this kind of thing that developed the star, and the star becomes the boss because there's pretty much, we're making movies with this person. That's why they're coming to see him. They're not coming to see him because I made the movie. They're coming to see those people. And so the boss says, that'll be more money, or, you know, the boss star, that'll be more money, thank you. And then we move on to genre. The first one they talk about is the Western, which is uniquely American. This, if there is an American myth, it's all about that. It is the Western. Then they move to the romantic comedy. Everything you can think of with regard to the romantic comedy, including the screwball comedies. The combat film. They call it the combat film. Everybody else calls it the war movie. But anyway, you see what goes on with the combat and all that kind of stuff. Then it moves into everybody's favorite genre, film noir. And they'll ask that question, is film noir a genre or is it just a style? Because if you think about that, if you've ever seen Citizen Kane, it looks very much like film noir. But would you call Citizen Kane film noir? And then it moves into film in the television age. What happened at that point in its history? Then the film school generation. They're also known as the film brats. These were students who went to school to learn how to make movies. Previous to that point, these people who made films came from all over the place. They were writers, they were artists, they were photographers. Some of them just walked off the street. They didn't have a film school. You learned on the job. And then suddenly, you know, eggheads take over, and now you go to school to learn how to make movies. And then the edge of Hollywood. This is kind of, for 20 years ago, what's coming? You know, what's the new thing that's coming? How are Hollywood films going to change? And we all know they changed radically. Like, we just don't see 35 millimeter film anymore, you know? It's all downloaded in movie theaters. It's all these computer things and so forth. They're the two email. Remember, use email. Also remember, you're responsible for the exam. And the end. Now, I can entertain questions for the good of the order. Anybody have a question? I'm sure somebody must have at least one question. Yes?
When you said Westerns are uniquely American, but yet there are some Westerns that were filmed in, like, Italy.
Spaghetti Westerns.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the question is that I said, you know, that Westerns are uniquely American, which they are. And when you study the Italian Westerns, which are known as spaghetti Westerns, the European Westerns, what you find is that those films have nothing whatever to do with the American West. What those films have to do with are American Western films. It is those people in Europe loved Westerns. It was very uniquely American. It was a different kind of film. It was something they'd never seen before, the vast, you know, the vistas and so forth. And then these Italian filmmakers said, well, why don't we make our own? And so they put their own stamp on it, like Leone and his long takes and that. But they are very much tributes to what they had seen on their screens, you know, like Cinema Paradiso, you know, sitting in there. Yeah, yes, the Clint Eastwood, yes, very much. The kind of Clint Eastwood's film, A Fistful of Dollars, is not the first, but it was the first one to make it really big, and it turned him into what they call a superstar and all of that. Okay, I hear the music, so we're closing out. So thanks for coming. If you have other questions, we can do it after the show is gone. Okay, thanks. See you.
Lane Online. Learn, unlearn, relearn.